Hey everybody, welcome to Tuesday morning Get Live with Dracaena. I'm a little sick this morning, little sore throat, so excuse my raspiness. Today we are going to be talking about terroir and is terroir real? Okay, and I don't know why people have to argue about things such as this, but they do. So we're going to talk about what terroir is and is it real. There's lots of people on both sides of the fence that say, yes, it is real, it's absolutely real. And then there's people like, no, it's all just what the winemaker wants to say. It's just, a myth of theirs. So by definition, terroir is the complete and natural environment in which a particular wine is produced, right? So it includes factors such as soil, topography, and climate. Another definition of terroir is the characteristic taste and flavor imparted to a wine by the environment in which it is produced. Okay? So this is what the dictionary says is terroir. Okay, so very simply, it is just whatever is out in nature and how it impacts the wine. Okay, so that is the basic definition. Although my favorite definition is by Nick Goldschmidt of Goldschmidt Vineyards. When I was talking to him one time, he said, terroir is everything the winemaker cannot create, right? So as a winemaker, we can create that, we can influence the wine by choosing the barrels. We can choose when to harvest. We can choose how to process the wine. We can choose, right, like stainless steel or oak, right? But we cannot choose the climate, the microclimate, the elevation, soil, the sunlight intensity, how much rain is going to come, and even the microorganisms, right? So once the vine is in there and we're going to take the fruit from that vineyard, we have no control over any of that stuff. And that is, that is really what terroir really is. Everything that the winemaker cannot affect, right? So yeah, I can choose to pick from this vineyard versus this vineyard, but I'm still going to have to deal with the environmental controls of that environment. Okay, so everything that the winemaker cannot choose to do, that's going to be the definition that we're saying is terroir. Okay, so the first thing that is important in terroir is going to be the climate. Okay, so we have lots of climates. People always think about the regional climate, okay, the vineyard itself climate, but it's not just the region, right? So we have the region. Is it a cool climate? Is it a warm climate? Then we break it down into smaller bits of the vineyard climate. Okay, so the vineyard itself could be within a specific AVA, but it's got a whole different climate. All right, so in Paso, the Estrella district, okay, which is where our Cab Franc comes from, right? Our vineyard site stays a little bit cooler, a little bit longer. The fog kind of hangs out there a little bit longer than with some other vineyards that are in the same AVA, the same Estrella AVA. So that would be the vineyard climate. Then we can break it down even smaller and talk about the actual within the vines. Some vines within the vineyard have a different microclimate than the other vines that are in the area, okay? And then you can even break it down even further into the berry climate, okay? So, or the cluster climate. So the clusters that are at the ends of the rows are going to have a very different climate than the clusters that are in the center of the row. And then break it down even further into the individual clusters, the berries in there, right? The berries that are on the outside are going to experience a different climate than the berries that are on the inside. So these are all climate things that are going to pay into that kind of come into the role of how this is going to be. Now, certain things we can do as a winemaker to choose wisely which varieties we're going to plant, right? In a cooler climate, we're going to think Chardonnays or Pinots, right? They're better in cooler climates. They don't do so great in the hot climates. Can we make Pinot and Chard in a warm climate? Yes, but you're probably not going to make a very high quality wine because of the terroir. Okay. The next part of the terroir, and probably, you know, a huge one, is the soil. Okay, so much is involved in the soil, okay, that determines how that vine grows and how that fruit develops. Okay, we can talk about whether it's a clay soil or a loamy soil or calcareous or sandy, right? Those are all important. But we have, I don't know how somebody can declare there is no terroir when we have DOs and DOQs that are designed specifically for the soil. Okay, so like if you think about the lapilli soil that's in DO Lanzarote, right? It's a very specific soil, and that's what makes the DO, right? Or we have the Abruzzo soil in Jerez, okay, making those sherries that are so specific and so unique, right? To the point where we have a sherry triangle that in order to make the sherry, it needs to be produced within there, and the region around it is the only place that you can harvest fruit in order to make that soil and or to make that wine. And what this picture is the Licorella soil, okay, that is in DOQ Para. Okay, I mean, like that is so specific, right? So it obviously has to play a role into how the vines are going to produce what the fruit they're going to produce, okay? So soil is important, but also within that, we have to think about the water content within the soil, the minerals that are within the soil, and the pH. All of those things play a role in the soil. So yes, it's important whether it's a calcareous soil or, you know, a loamy soil, different clay, right? Different grape varieties like different types of soils, okay? But we also need to pay attention to what's under there inside the soil, okay? And the water content and all of that, okay? So our next portion of terroir is topography. Okay, so the topography is, you know, we've talked about the soil, but now we're going to talk about where the vines are actually grown. Okay, what directions are the vines facing? You know, is it a southern exposure, northern exposure, eastern, western? Depending on where you are, you're going to want your vines to be growing in a different direction in order to give the best quality wine there is. Okay. So we, you know, for us, we grow our vines so that it gets the daylight sun, the early morning sun, so that the sun can break down those pyrazines to get rid of those, to get rid of that bell pepper flavor, okay, that can be in Cab Franc. But we have it so that it is protected by the vines, by the greenery in the back when it is hot afternoon sun. Okay, so knowing your vineyard site and planting to a specific direction is going to help that. Okay, so yes, I can fix those things, but I can't change them. I can be a smart winemaker, I can be a smart vineyard owner, and I can plant appropriately, but I'm still going to have to deal with those temperatures and deal with when the sun rises, when the sun sets, okay? Also with the topography is the altitude, okay? How high are those vines? What's the steepness of the vines, okay, that they are planted on, right? Is it just a rolling hill? Is it in the valley? Is it super high, okay? Is the altitude really high? These are all things that play a role that as a winemaker, I can't change that. If a vineyard is planted at 1,900 feet, it's planted at 1,900 feet. I just have to react to that terroir, okay? And then the last one, which I think most people kind of forget about, is the microbiome, okay? So this is, you know, microbiology plays a huge role in winemaking, and there's things that we really can't do anything about. So the microbiome that's on the grapes, okay, it's going to develop as the berries are progressing. Okay, there's yeast and bacteria naturally there. on the grapes, and they are going to impact it, right? We have insects that come around, right? We have bees and wasps and things that come around that can transfer, microbes from one vineyard to another vineyard, okay? Not to mention that there's the air, okay, right? Just wind can transfer microbes from one vineyard to another vineyard, or one cluster to another cluster. So all of these all impact how that vine is going to grow. And we're also talking the microbiome that's in the soil, okay? There are micro organisms that are in the soil that impact how that vine is going to grow, okay? So we have the winemaker can do things to counter or to enhance the terroir impact, but we can't make terroir disappear, okay? So decisions can be made like the variety planted, or recognizing that bad weather is going to be coming and we're going to harvest earlier, or, notice that it's a heat spike, we're going to ride it out. So those are decisions that we can do, but we can't change that heat spike from coming. We can't change the rain from coming. So if anybody's going to ask me, yeah, I'm a true believer in terroir, and terroir makes a big impact into the wine, okay? Because a quality wine is made with limited human intervention. So, and remember, wine was not created. It was found. It happens naturally. So if it happens naturally, right, long before man was like, hey, this is some pretty good stuff, it's got to be terroir that's taking care of everything, okay? So I don't know. I believe terroir occurs. I've tasted through different vineyard sites when it is the same winemaker. How do you explain that? Okay, if I can taste through different soils, but it's the same grape variety and the same winemaker and the same processing, the only difference is the terroir. So yeah, I believe terroir is real. So leave a comment. Let me know if you believe terroir is real or not. And again, leave me a comment to let me know if there's something else you would like me to talk about. Have a great Tuesday. Have a wonderful rest of your week and enjoy. Sláinte.